What's going on, everybody? Gustav the 13th here. Merry Christmas, I guess. Not really, but we do have the holiday update going further as we check out the new suit that was announced earlier, the Crossbone Gundam X-3. 750 raid here. The space compatibility, melee priority 3 as a 5-star. Definitely blowing their load early, which does make me wonder what the new suit is going to be for the actual Christmas route itself. But looking at the weapons and all that, interesting Muramasa B here. It's got a gun mode. It's got two different versions of the blaster's melee. So a collision mode, which isn't really a collision in a lot of the sense, outside of it just being something that comes out in front for more reach. But 3400 base power for the regular sword, 34 as well for the collision version, and 3200 for the regular shot. No charge shot on this for the gun mode itself. Heat at 85%, so you get 2 shots out of this unless you're just pacing yourself a little bit more. Range of 400 meters, so decent amount of reach. And it does have a little bit of ASL to play with there with an overheat time of 15 seconds. The Vulcan guns, pretty good. About 13 hits or so for those. Good rate of fire, only 30 ammo for the mag and 150 power. We also have this, which, yes, it comes out of the skull's eyes. They're kind of stupid, and they do accumulate well, but it's a very slow rate of fire while also having 40 ammo and 300 reach. So a decent amount of extra reach for this if you're just kind of doing neutral and waiting for your boost to come back up. But then similarly, we also had this, which it says arm beam gun, but it's on the shoulders. I don't know, maybe they just put arm beam guns from something else onto the shoulders of this, and that's what that means. But these are instant stun. It's a two hit pulse on this. And then we do have an eye field generator here. So temporarily generates an arm eye field, which reduces HP damage from beam attacks and reduces or nullifies reactions. Reactions or cumulative beam attacks are reduced as well. If this weapon is selected while its arm eye field is activated and ranged beam attacks are taken from the front, cumulative damage reactions from those attacks are nullified. However, changing to melee and exiting during a tackle will cause the eye field to vanish, resulting in overheating. I'm gonna be honest with you, also compatible with max output T, extended weapon effect time during max output. I'm gonna be honest with you, you're not gonna really pay attention to any of that, but just, you know, certain conditions will make it go away. Just because of your hands not being, you know, occupied or otherwise. For this though, the ability on this does affect the way that the collision works, not necessarily for the blaster itself, although obviously you're still going to get that output update for that, especially because this does have an aerial heavy attack, or just a heavy attack in general. We'll get into that more once we get into the skills, but for now let's check out the stats. We got 25k health, ballistic beam and melee resistance are 24, 24, and 36 respectively, with the range strength being at 25 and melee strength being at 50. Movement speed rise, we got 150, top speed of 235, thruster gauge of 85, and a turning speed of 90. Definitely got a lot of zoom and neum on this suit, and of course when you do your ability stuff, you're gonna go even faster in a lot of ways. So for part slottage, we have close, medium, and long being 21, 20, and 16. A little bit more balanced, at least a bit more generous on the close and medium. Getting into the skills, then we have Assault Booster 3, High Spec Handbag 2, Maneuver Armor 4, Melee Composite System 3, Aerial Melee System, High Performance Thruster Control System, so cancel landing after high speed movement with a high speed movement with a lower thruster consumption, allowing for additional high speed movement. Quite the descriptor. Glide Structure, Anti-Blast Stabilizer. Notice that as we're going down this, we do not have fall prevention or any of that. You are pretty vulnerable in the air, although you do have maneuver armor to work with. Optimized cooling efficiency, flat booster 2, power accelerator 2, so you are able to get out of clashes with cancels and stuff like that. Damage control 1. Very surprised it's not a little bit higher. But emergency evasion system 3, heavy attack Kai, so this is us talking about the fact that you can also do it in midair, and that it nullifies and pushes through a lot of stuff. Max output T, so when dealing damage to an enemy mostly with a melee weapon, the skill gauge increases. Once the skill gauge is maxed out, pressing the touchpad fully recovers HP for all parts and temporarily activates the skill. Under effect, increasing an attack power, mobility, high speed movement max limit, and reduces the amount of thruster consumed while starting or moving at high speed. Performance for weapons compatible with the skill are altered, reducing damage taken from melee attacks. This skill gauge is maxed out. Wait, hold on. Reducing damage taken from melee attacks. This skill can be used again after some time has passed. And that some time is like 9 or 8 seconds. It's not a lot. This actually comes back up really fast. And then of course it has an increased counter at 50%. Temporarily boosts attack and defense of your unit and ally units within the limited area after you do the counter in that mode. So not bad. Let's check out the enhancement list then. So we got Force Deploy, which, you know, high-end suit lets you do that. It's just already there at the start. You get +1 to melee modifier, -3% to recovery time from thruster overheat, and the last free one is our complex expansion, which even on a 5-star suit is still only level 1. So +1 to close, medium, and long. The unlockables then are +5 to melee modifier and reduces melee damage from mobile suit HP by 10% when toppled. It's an emergency melee defense system. But let us bring this in. I'm gonna make sure that I got my buttons. Yeah, I do. Okay. And we'll check it out and then get into our example match after that. Anytime. Ready place. There we go. Sorry, I forget that his is sorry. I'm playing this on my friend's account. I forget that his ready thing is just sorry. So regular stun there. We get the 2 pulse for that. Also a stun. The Gatling gun then, really odd. Let me just try to pick on the raid here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So 9 hits. But look at how slow that is. And it also can be fired on the move, same with the beam gun unit. The Vulcans can be, of course. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So 13 or so with that. A little bit more for anything that has damage control. And a good rate of fire for the actual Vulcans themselves. Nothing to really complain about there. You do got the eye field unit for that, and of course once you switch to other things that occupy the hand or whatever, it goes away. But let's check out the melee here. So you do get 3 swings, which means that after you do one of those, as long as you're hitting multiple people, a little bit less so if you're just hitting one, you'll get that max output. One thing to keep in mind, you know, it's a little bit generous when it comes to that swing, but the side swings on this are not swings, they are stabs. For whatever godforsaken reason, like it's an actual lancer or something. The downswing itself, though, a little bit of reach there. This has a really quick, like, advancing downswing for the melee sword here. Although, of course, when you get into the air and tap, you get a little bit more carry with that. I don't think you really get as generous of a hitbox as you do with, like, the 91 and stuff when it comes to that just being held out and hitting shit. And then, of course, for the aerial melee on here for the regular version, get a good amount of carry on that as well. Gotta be careful when it comes to how much you're turning your camera, though, because it will move pretty generously. Alright, getting into the max output stuff. One thing that I thought was going to happen that doesn't happen is that this does not hold it out to do like a collision thing with that. You do get mobile shooting, however, which is probably what I saw. So fire with this. Get that stab. The downswing then turns into a down stab into a big heavy attack looking thing right there. The melee for this, kind of nasty. Let me hit this. Still the same thing there, no extra follow. So we can show off the heavy attack for this. 1, 2, and then it just keeps moving you for that big kind of Red Rider-esque like spin. Now, of course, as you saw in the skills, you can start this in the air and come down with it. And when it comes to canceling out of this, once you do the second swing and it follows into it, you can actually get out of that. For this, then, after the initial stun or the initial stab, you can get out of that as well. And similarly, anything when it comes to that, you can roll out of as well. Little things to note. Now, here's where I kind of have an issue. That's it. That's all this does. Now, there's something to definitely be said about how nasty this heavy attack is. You know, and if you can really learn your spacing when it comes to that collision, then you can probably get some good pokes in there. But this This is no X1. You know what I'm saying? There's no brand marker with melee marked stuff that you can throw on the move. You don't have the screw web to kind of get people off you. It doesn't have the pizza cutter that also has no priority like the Video Medina 2. And even though this does have a little bit more reach with the, you know, the collision version of that, you're still generally stumpier than a lot of other stuff at this cost, with a lot less movement on your downswings compared to other suits, unless you're in max output. And even then, some of those are really delayed because of the extra steps like that this does. So you are getting more travel out of it, and something you can do here. And I don't know if I can recreate this with someone who did, and I did it on accident. But as you can see there, not only does it give you a better idea of how much it does reach, but you can sweep it horizontally and kind of sweep other people up with it. Obviously not something you're going to be able to take advantage of all the time, but an interesting thing to note just because of the sheer behavior of it. In fact, I wonder if I can recreate that in the air. Pretty much. A little diagonal crease on there. Not bad. And the re-up is pretty good. I will be honest though, because of how slow and ceremonious that downswing is on the collision one, people are probably mostly going to just be using the 3 hits to get in there. Not only for that, but also when it's out of this mode in order to get that extra build up for the skill. In general though, other stuff like accumulation on the base, nothing to really write home about. Kind of typical, it is a raid. You get some little decent hits out of the melee itself, but it's mostly going to be your rifle. Maybe a little bit with the beam gun unit, but it's only going to be for finishing off a base that's really low. For the most part, you're just going to be using your weapons to keep people off the guys actually doing the damage for it. So we do have a match, and I'll be honest with you, this was a struggle to get a decent match, let alone a win in this suit. I don't doubt that there's going to be people who go full monkey mode with this, but I'm telling you right now, it's a lot harder than some of the other raids at this cost. So we're going to put that match right around here. Put the tree finally. Staggeringly little chaos. You know what? That is surprising. Although maybe that is promising unless they just get crazy later. Blue not fucking with the tree. That's their first year, right? For Christmas at the house. I got Duyas here. Great. Near me, what is that? Oh my god. Why me all the time, dude? I don't wanna. Oh god. I'd really much rather be in the pizza cutter right now, dude. This suit's exhausting. Ugh.
程度のダメージならまだ大丈夫ですよ。さすがにまずいかも。モビルスーツがやられました。味方の再出撃お願いします。味方が敵モビルスーツを撃破。高度のダメージならまだまだ大丈夫。まだ大丈夫ですよ。
Oh my god.
多分
Oh. Oh my god, this is everyone getting in everyone's way all day.
中継地点を制圧しましょう。絶対役に立つはずだから。さすが味方が敵モビルスーツを
Oh my god, please.
モビルスーツがやられました。くそ、味方が撃破された。再出撃お願いします。くそ、味方が撃破された。くそ、味方が敵モビルスーツを撃破。この程度のダメージならまだまだ大丈夫。まだ大丈夫ですよ。多分さすがにまずいかも。早く脱出を。味方が敵モビルスーツを撃破。モビルスーツ
Where are my beams going, dude? Like, is he stunning me and it's just stopping coming out of my barrel? Like, what the fuck? That should have hit him. Ugh.
味方
Disgusting.
味方が撃破された。再出撃お願いします。戦況的には不利っぽいけどまだ巻き返せるはず。敵モビルスーツを撃破。この程度のダメージならまだ大丈夫。味方の救援要請だ。味方が敵モビルスーツを撃破。
Oh. Not supposed to not be that.
味方くそ、作戦時間残り2。この作戦の拠点重要度が上昇。敵モビルスーツを撃破。
Oh my god.
モビルスーツがやられました。味方が敵モビルス。くそ、味方が撃破された。再出撃お願いします。くそ、味方が敵モビルスーツを撃破。 味
Oh my god, I hate it.
まだ終わっちゃいませんよ。特殊効果発動。
Oh my god.
敵モビルスーツを撃破。味方が敵モビルスーツを撃破。敵モビルスーツを撃破。
Too much fucking work, dude.
終了。
Ugh.
やったー。俺たちの勝利ですよ。
I don't know. I can see bits and pieces of it, but this is another thing where it feels like you have to really just kind of sit in midline for a second and only do some pokes once in a while. I don't really like that. I'd rather just get in there with the pizza pasta. I don't know, maybe give it a bit more of a forgiving hitbox for the collision. But I can see how people are doing like the aerial melee and stuff with the regular blade and shit, and how that can actually string together really well. The body guns and stuff don't really like. At the very least, it still has those chest stuns, but beyond that, doesn't really feel like it's working with a whole lot of breakthrough stuff that actually opens suits up. So that was our run in the X-3. Now granted, there's another version of the X1 that has X-3 stuff in it, and then of course there's the full cloth. That's another version of the X-3 and all that for us to mess around with. There's plenty of variants for this that haven't been here, so that if this isn't your bag, don't worry, there's going to be a better version of this that comes down the line eventually anyway. That probably is going to have a fuck ton more melee on it, which I would assume is probably going to be a raid again. I'll be very surprised if it isn't. But this is an interesting introduction to this blaster weapon and the kind of modes that it has. I do wish that it had some other things to work with that didn't force it to either do a lot of hang time or do neutral movement, because this does not have fall prevention or anything like that. Which means that doing that stuff to lead into the rest of its melee is very dangerous. And for the most part, what I'm seeing people do is a lot of like raw, heavy attacks and just melee while catching people from behind and stuff. Just assuming that they don't get plowed over by, oh, I don't know, the multitude of X1s and shit at this cost that are just, you know, flipping everyone over with their screw webs and all that other shit. So it's got a lot of enemies, especially as a raid at this cost. Not a lot of things to chew on, but it definitely has the chops in terms of damage, and there's plenty of parts that can augment that in a way that's a lot more meaningful, you know, but that does mean having to have a fair amount of those more hybrid cheater parts to work with in the first place. I don't doubt, once again, that there's probably going to be some folks that put out some crazy videos with this, but if you're talking about something that's a little bit more consistent and that has a nicer main weapon, I've actually been warming up to the Big Nagina 2. Granted, it is a little bit hazardous with that downswing on the pizza cutter itself, or the snakehead. But you do have a lot more versatility in terms of range and being able to catch people that try to evade your shit when it comes to that, compared to this, outside of just having to burn a lot of stuff. And it has a very nice mobile firing mode that this sorely lacks, especially since the only thing you can fire on the move is either its gun when it's in max output, or its Vulcans, because everything else is kind of just tied to its chest, and those are still not allowed to, you know, apparently be used while moving, even though it's just a fixed weapon. I think that's really silly. But that's kind of my long and short of this suit. There's going to be a lot of technical stuff that comes out. People coming up with combos and stuff as we go through the week. I don't doubt that there's going to be a couple really rabid folks that come out and really make this shit sign. But as a general first impression, there are other suits out there. This is still a very big kind of general suits world. And there are other suits that I kind of prefer when it comes to doing the raid stuff, like the Vigniga 2, for 750 in particular. And heaven forbid what this is going to look like when eventually we get like the Destiny at level 2, among other stuff that's still stuck in 700. That might change the game entirely when it comes to stuff up here. We'll just have to see. But that's been my initial thoughts on the X-3. Good luck if you guys spin for it. Hopefully we'll see some cool gameplay out there, and I'll be playing this as much as I can when I do have time, mostly because I don't actually have it. I kind of want to spin for it, but I'm very much tempted to just wait and see what comes out for Christmas and then just do my big spins then. We'll see. But hopefully, regardless of that, I'll see you guys in the next video, or the next stream.